Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Amber Unfiltered. Tonight I'm going to give you my film critique on Gladiator 2, but before I do that, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, if you want to cash out me at Amber Unfiltered Show, that'd be greatly appreciated. So, I do have my handy dandy tablet here with me. It has some notes about the plot slash storyline. I'll go through this and I'll just kind of insert my feedback or my comments as needed. I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know if you plan on going to see it. Let me know if you're not and you just want to watch the review. That'd be greatly appreciated. So, the opening scene starts with Lucius Aurelius. He is played by Paul Mescal. I'm not super familiar with this actor. I've seen him and heard of his name, kind of buzzing. I know he was on a show on BBC with Daisy Edgar Jones, who I absolutely adore, called Normal People, I believe. I think it was like two teenagers or younger, like maybe in their early 20s, like kind of going through this toxic relationship, kind of can't leave each other alone, kind of come from different walks of life, and they're kind of just like in this off and on or like holding pattern. I started to watch it and I just felt like it was just like sex. Like I was like, dude, if I wanted to see that, I could watch that anytime I feel like. Not that I am, but like it just wasn't doing it for me. I was like, I need more of an emotional pull. I need more story. But I remember watching him in that. I think he's been in a bunch of other things. He's really like blowing up, and I admire actors because they give their all, and I know it's years in the making. We see just what we consider the overnight success or the overnight journey, but these guys have been putting in work behind the scenes for ages, and a lot of them do go to school and get training. Some of them are just natural talents, like Jennifer Lawrence. I don't think she went to acting school, and look at her now. She's freaking A-lister and in every movie you can think of. So anyway, the opening scene starts with Lucius. He's in a garden with like his chickens. He's got like seeds, and he's kind of letting the seeds just like he's like picking them up and then just like letting them fall. I now, as I have finished the movie, I see that that was foreshadowing in a sense, and we'll kind of get into that later as to why I said that. So he embraces his wife, Arishot. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, so forgive me. And they're basically bracing themselves for war because their enemies are coming across the water. They know they're coming, and he's getting all his troops, animated and riled up and, trying to get their mind on winning, basically, and overthrowing or, getting their enemy to surrender. So Pedro Pascal, who we all know, I'm trying to think what is some work that he's been in. The Last of Us, Wonder Woman 2, I think is Wonder Woman 1984. He's been in a bunch of other things, but I'm drawing such a hard blank right now. But he plays a general named Marcus Acacius. I want to say that correct, if I'm saying that correctly. If not, forgive me. So he's leading the army into Numidia, where Lucius and Arishot live. So Akasha's army basically fucks the city up. He conquers it. Him and his army kill basically everyone in it. The people that they haven't killed, obviously they take them back. They enslave them. So Arishot, Lucius's wife, is doing her thing with the bow and arrow. Now let me back up. Me and Nick talked about this a little bit ago before I started filming this video. So his wife, Arishot, I don't think she's like a fighter in the sense of like using her hands. I think she uses other tools like, like not a hammer, but, something to that effect. Or an axe. I was thinking of an axe. I don't know why I was thinking hammer, Thor, duh. But she is really good with the bow and arrow, kind of like Katniss in the Hunger Games. But I thought it was interesting because there was a scene before Pedro Pascal's army got there, or Akashius's army got there, where a general, not Paul Mescal's character, Lucius, but a general was like tapping like the soldiers, like, hey, kind of giving his seal of approval or green light to like go ahead and participate in the war. And she comes up there and it was kind of like, oh, I don't know if like you're good enough to participate, but it's like, oh, historically, I'm not sure if that's accurate. I feel like there probably were female soldiers back in this time, but I was like, oh, I'm surprised that they're, okay, this sounds really wrong. I'm surprised that they were letting a woman into war because I feel like it was pretty well documented that it was plenty of men going into war at that time. I forget what the time period was. I think it was like 200 AD or something like this. And even, again, I'm not trying to bash the fact. I'm pretty sure there probably were women participating in war like that, but I don't think it was as common. And I wondered if they were trying to, I didn't feel like it necessarily served the story, I guess. Maybe that's just me being wrong. I do feel like women can participate in war and have been victors and have led armies and are fully capable, but I just was kind of surprised by that. And even Nick was like, I don't know. And I took a history class some semesters ago, and we had to study like Greek and like Roman life and like Western civilizations, like dating way back, and I didn't really see that. It was more like they were like domesticated, like child rearing, matters of the home, you know, overseeing like maids or housekeepers, kind of keeping the finances and like household affairs in order. So I was really surprised to see that. Not that it couldn't exist, but I was just like, okay. So anyway, that kind of threw me off. I was like, okay, you know, it's not Wonder Woman where they're like all female army and they're like, you know, sustainable. But anyway, so Ara Shah is doing her thing and Akasha sees it and he's like, kill her off with her head. So she's killed immediately by bow and arrow, which is funny because she's supposed to be a beast with it, and then she got killed with the thing that she was supposed to be fire at. So anyway, so then let me back up. I think Lucius is doing his thing and then he gets caught up in seeing his wife get killed. So then he gets hit and he's like tossed underwater or something like that. So then there's a really beautiful scene that I actually really like. This was probably one of my favorite scenes out of the movie, I think, just from the technical aspect of it. And I also love black and white. So he has seen his wife die in real life. So then when he's like unconscious, he goes into like a spiritual realm and sees his wife being taken by the Grim Reaper. The way that that was shot was just so beautiful. It was like black and white. He's like in a field. He's trying to run to save her. He's like screaming her name and she's like, babe, I'll wait for you. And that just broke my heart because I was like, oh my God, I would not want to see Nick in that type of situation. Like, I hope we go together, which sounds so fucking morbid. We've talked about this and he's like, oh, well, I might go first. And I'm like, bro, don't say that. Like, no one gets married to, like, obviously I know he has to die, but that's something I'm not willing to think about right now. Totally TMI. But anyway, that was one of my favorite scenes. Also the score, like the music that accompanied that scene was just so gorgeous. The way it was edited. I was like, shout out to Ridley Scott, who made this film. He directed this film. Shout out to his editing team because I know it was like a collaborative effort. So then Lucius is enslaved along with his men and his like captain. God, I forget the actor's name, but he's been in so much stuff. He's kind of like another Jaimon Hansu. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but y'all all know him. Like, he came from like Blood Diamond. I want to say, was he in Thor? He's been in so many freaking movies. I think he's been in A Quiet Place. Like, he's done every movie you can ever possibly think of. A lot of action movies. Was he in Transporter with Jason Statham? Let me know in the comments. But anyway, I'm trying not to get too off track because I have so much to say about this movie. So Lucius is enslaved. His captain dies on the passage over, and then he's basically forced to be a gladiator in Rome, which is going to be his new home. So his first time in the arena is fucking batshit. It's bananas, bro. So they are immediately thrust into the arena. There's no fucking break. And I was like, that's probably really true to history. I was thinking like, that must be so scary. First of all, you're conquered, then you're stolen / kidnapped, then you're forced to assimilate into this other culture that doesn't want you there, and then you're forced to fight your way out. You either fight or die. That's it. Like, you have no other choices. Like, I can't imagine what that did. And then like, if you're not a killer, like, kill or be killed, like, that's kind of fucked up. So I was just thinking from a logical aspect and like a mental health aspect, like, gladiators probably definitely had PTSD if they didn't have it before they were thrown into that situation. So they have Lucius and the other gladiators fight a group of fucking wild baboons. Now, that scene was actually fire. I actually really liked how they introduced him in there, and Lucius goes ham. This one baboon and him are just getting into it. And the baboon is like, what's up? So he kills it. But before he does it, he like bites its arm off to like assert dominance. And that kind of like wards the baboon off of him. So Denzel Washington's character, Macronus, sees him and he's like, I'm about to sponsor him. Like, I'm about to make him my instrument, as what he said in the trailer. What kind of killed me about this is that the baboons were so CGI that it made me feel like I was at the movies. I told Nick this earlier. I said, hey, I love when I go to the movies and I forget that I'm at the movies. I don't want to think about my phone. I don't want to think about social media. I don't want to think about work. I don't want to think about school. Like, I want my mind to be a blank canvas. I want to feel like I'm immersed, like I'm in the story, like I'm living with the characters, like I'm interacting with them. And that made me feel like I wasn't, if that makes sense. I love special effects and I think they're really important. I think technology has come a long way, and that it has made the quality of films better, but also what you can do with films so much better. And I just give my hats off to anybody who does visual or special effects because I know it's not easy. It takes a lot of coordination. It takes a lot of effort. I just didn't like that. So I was like, okay, like the baboons were very vicious, but I was like, were they actually that big? Probably not at that time. They were like mini Godzilla size, and I was like, that's not realistic, but it could have been. I could be totally wrong. Baboons seem smaller to me in this day and age, but they could have been bigger back then. I have no fucking idea. I wasn't born then. So keep in mind, this movie's almost 3 hours long. I think the runtime was like 2 hours and 41 minutes. It was quite long, so I have a lot to cover here. I'm gonna try to breeze through it as best as I can. So one of the best things about the movie is Macrinus, played by Denzel Washington. He's just a character. You can't figure out like who he is or like what he wants, like what he's motivated by. And I kind of like that because I was like, oh, I'm intrigued by him. I want to know what Denzel's character is up to. I want to know what makes Macrinus tick, because he was so just like light and like, oh, he kind of was like kissing ass of like people in leadership and people in like the kingdom. And it was like, I know he's doing this for a reason, but why? And later on, we obviously see why. He's definitely a wolf in sheep's clothing, and I feel like Denzel just played him so perfectly. It was so interesting seeing him play the villain. I'm sure he's had other movies where he's played the villain, but this one, it was just like so subtle, but he was so calculated. I absolutely loved it. He was probably one of the most intriguing characters in the movie, honestly, for me. So Lucius is hesitant to be a gladiator, but he's kind of got no choice. It's either die or keep fighting. So he asks Macrinus, he's like, hey, get me Acacius's head on a platter. Acacius is the one who killed his wife. So he's like, I'm out for smoke, I'm out for blood. So Macrinus is like, do what you're told and I'll get you that head. So then in the background, there are twin emperors, Geta and Caracalla. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. These names are killing me. So they've been ruling Rome with an iron fist. They're very well hated, but no one has been fearful enough to overthrow them. But the kicker is, who is it? Oh, let me back up. Acacius's character can't stand them, but he works for them. He's just doing what he's told. Like, again, everyone's kind of moving from fear. Like, they're ruling with an iron fist. No one kind of has the cojones to stand up to them. So Emperor Geta is played by Joseph Quinn, who I think is absolutely fantastic. I told you in another video, I freaking love him. He played the gentleman in Stranger Things, the last season. He was excellent. Oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank on his character. I want to say it's Joe, but it's not. Don't listen to me on that part. But he's played in A Quiet Place, Stranger Things. He's played in a couple of other things. I'm drawing a hard blank right now. It is late and I'm up past my bedtime doing this for you guys, just as an FYI. And then Emperor Caracalla is played by Fred Heckinger. I'm not super familiar with him, but his face was jogging my memory. So I was like, I'm gonna have to look at his catalog later. So these two kind of feed off each other. I mean, they are twins, but you can tell there's like a little bit of envy or competition or some type of tension between them, which is really interesting. Geta is more authoritative or dominant. Caracalla is kind of an idiot. Like, he's got like a pet monkey. He can't think straight. He thinks off of emotion and he's very erratic. Whereas Geta is more composed and he thinks things through. So they tend to clash because of that. Their leadership styles are very different, but they just lead with it's just whimsical. They kind of go with the wind, and that has caused a lot of issue in the Republic of Rome. So Acacius returns to Rome. He's like this decorated war hero because he conquered Numidia, which is where Lucius was from. So the twins are like, hey, we want to celebrate you. We're going to put on a parade. We're going to put on, not a parade, let me back up. They're going to put on a gladiatorial game for the public to enjoy, like kind of in his honor. He's like, I don't want that shit. I just want to see my wife, because he hasn't seen her and she's probably worried, like, did he make it? Did he not? And they're like, no, you can't do that. And they're like, hey, we want you to continue conquering other countries because they want to be the most powerful like civilization to exist. They're like, hey, we want you to get Persia. We want you to get India, start checking off some boxes. He does not want that, which is so interesting because in the beginning of the movie, he seemed so aggressive and so bloodthirsty. But again, he's just doing what he's been told, what he's been commanded. He doesn't have another choice. He knows that could cost his family their livelihood. He wants to actually retire from war, which is interesting because you don't really see that. You see generals be so tough, so like mercenary like, but he's just like, no, I want to give this shit a rest. Like, I want to still live my best years ahead of me, which I thought was very interesting. I like the way that Pedro Pascal played him because he was so tough or so like in the beginning, but then you see his more vulnerable or softer side, and you see that he's a man who loves his family, aka his wife. To my knowledge, him and the wife didn't have any kids, but yeah, it was kind of interesting how he played him. I really like that. So a man in the Senate, Thrax, I don't know how to say this shit. It's Thraex. Sorry, I'm cussing a lot. I need to do better about that. I just naturally cuss a lot, but anyway, so he throws a party for the emperors. kind of gassing them up, and he arranges a duel between the gladiators. But the kicker is they do this in the house. It's like a palace or a mansion or something. So they're just like, it's not in the arena where it's more controlled. Like they're just like eating like fucking rhino head and like grapes and charcuterie boards and shit. And he's like, yeah, they about to fight to the death right here. I was like, what in the Hunger Games is this? This movie, okay, sidebar, this movie definitely reminded me of Catching Fire, the Hunger Games 2. That is actually my favorite one out of all the series after the first one. But it definitely reminded me of it just because the fight to the death, that survival instinct, that like survival of the fittest, and how you don't have time to be emotional or vulnerable because you have to figure out how to make it to tomorrow. It definitely reminded me of that in some way. I don't know how to explain it. And just some of the games that they participated in were just so gruesome. I was like, God damn. But anyway, so Lucius has to battle some gladiator he's never met. This guy is like beefier than him. He's more renowned. Like he's got like money on his side. He's got like sponsorship or like favor from the palace. So it's like Lucius is the little guy and he's just thrown in there. And Lucius is like, hey, let's not kill each other for their entertainment. Let's preserve each other. And the guy like, no, I'm out for blood, baby. I'm a shark in that water. So Lucius kills him. He fucks him up. And then he starts reciting poetry after that, like right to the Emperor Gaeta. Well, Gaeta and Caracalla are both there. And also Denzel's character, Macrinus, is there as well. And Macrinus is like, he's eating this up because he's like, made me look good, sis. Like, it is what it is. So he's like, where are you from? Because no average gladiator would know that. And it kind of hints that he is of more noble blood or noble stature. So this is interesting. So then his injuries from that fight are tended to by Ravi. He's the gladiator's doctor. What's very interesting about Ravi's character is that he used to be a gladiator himself. He said he decided to put down the sword because he wanted to heal people instead of killing them. And I thought that was so powerful. There were actually some really good quotes in this movie. I should have looked them up before I made this video, but I can't think of them right now. But yeah, anyway, so Ravi is pretty wise and gentle. He's actually one of my favorite characters. Another sidebar I want to say is that a lot of the supporting characters stood out to me more than the main characters. Like, I don't think Paul Mescal's performance sold me entirely, which is so mean. He's the lead actor. Like, I wasn't feeling that connection to him, and I just felt like I was at the movies. I didn't feel like, oh my God, I want Lucius to win. I want Lucius to survive. I want Lucius to be reunited with his family or what have you. Like, it just I didn't feel a connection. He was just so stoic or stiff, but I understand because he was placed in such a dire situation, he really didn't have time to be emotional. So I kind of get both sides, but I wish, this sounds so mean. Again, I don't mean any disrespect to Paul Mescal. I think he's doing his thing and he's having a really great moment. I think they should have cast somebody else as him. And that's my honest opinion. And I feel so bad for saying that, but I just was not buying it. The performance was not performancing for me. Like, it just wasn't. I don't even know who could have played. I'm trying to think who could have played him. Probably Joseph Quinn, actually, but Joseph Quinn played one of the twin emperors. So anyway, that would have been interesting to see him play that, because I think he would have played him with a little bit more finesse and more emotional depth. But anyway, so yeah, I think him and Ravi is like super wise and gentle, and Lucius is just very hardened. And I think they kind of make great contrast for each other, but they do quickly hit it off and become friends. And Ravi kind of pours into him almost like a Yoda would, which was really cool. So Lucilla hears Lucius recite this like specific quote or poem, and then a light bulb goes off and she realizes Lucius is her fucking son. I hated the way that they revealed this, because they like spoon fed it to the audience instead of letting it build up and make it more implied so that the audience could come to the conclusion themselves. I feel like they just gave it away, and I wish that it was a little bit more stylish the way that they introduced us into it. Sometimes I feel like movies spoon feed stuff to audiences, and it's like, let us figure it out. We're not as dumb, or we don't need as much coddling as you think. But I understand each moviegoer so different. Each moviegoer sees things differently and processes things differently. So I do respect that. So she had sent Lucius away when he was 12, which was when Maximus died in the arena, Russell Crowe's character from the original movie, so that he wouldn't be killed by like rivals in other kingdoms for the throne. She thought it was best to send him away, which I'm like, bitch, I'm not sending my kid away. You gonna have to fight me to the death, baby. But anyway, she did what she had to do for her son, and that's what you do as a mother. That's what you do as a parent. I kind of respect that, but at the same time, I don't. So anyway, Lucilla is like, hey, we blood, we family, and he like, nah. Like he was just like, yeah, I'm not about that life. So I think he was a little bit bitter because she had a life of luxury and he had a life of struggle and war and pain and blood and death. So I kind of understand why he was like, I'm good, sis. So then Lucilla and Acacius, which was, you know, the general that killed Lucius's wife, they conspire secretly with people in the Senate, like higher up officials, to overthrow the twin emperors and restore Rome back to its former glory, but a more free society. That doesn't work because her fucking maid snitches. Lucilla's maid snitches because she's overhearing these private conversations. I say I would have been like, off with your head, baby, like it's over. So she snitches to Thrakes, which was the guy that threw the party for the twin emperors early in the movie. Thrakes is in debt to Macrinus, Denzel's character. So Thrakes gives up the information of them wanting to overthrow the twins and all hell breaks loose. Macrinus, he's so strategic. Like, it's like he's playing chess, not checkers. Like, he does his moves deliberately across the board and he makes sure he hits that mark every time. So he was probably one of my favorite characters for that reason, because he was like, I think nobody was betting on him to slither in the way that he did. Like, he just did it so crazy to me. So then Macrinus also figures out that Lucius is Lucilla's son, and then that just like escalates the plot. So then, oh, let me back up too. There was a scene, it was a Gladiator game where Lucius and his soldiers had to fight another Gladiator army, and they did it. The arena was filled with water. This was in the Coliseum. It was filled with water and it had sharks in it. That part was actually really creative and genius to me, just the way it was shot and the way that it was like edited. I was like, okay, this was really cool. The only problem again was that the special effects were so CGI, like the sharks didn't, I mean, obviously that's probably really difficult to make it look realistic and not make it look so green screen or blue screen, but it just looked too cheesy. It looked a little, okay, I don't want to say cheesy. It looked a little bit too unrealistic. I was like, okay, I know that's a CGI shark. Like, I'm not dumb, but I don't know, like, sidebar. So we just finished watching The Penguin, and the special effects in that show are so crazy. If you have time, HBO on their channel has like a 30-minute like breakdown of how they made the show, from production to costuming to makeup to special effects. It's incredible. Like, you can just tell everybody who made that was so passionate and really loved what they were doing. This one, it was like watching the special effects on that, a lot of what they filmed, they did like shots of it and then edited it in for the actor later, like against the green screen, but you couldn't even tell because it was so authentic, because they actually shot real footage. I think if they had done something similar to that in Gladiator, it wouldn't have come across as so, okay, this is behind the screen. Like, it just, you could just so tell. And it like, even the water, just like the movement, I was like, oh, this is not like Avatar, the Way of the Water. Obviously I know that's CGI, but it looked real. Like, it was based on the Great Barrier Reef, I think, was where, what is his name? The director of the movie, James Cameron, kind of got inspiration from. I think he went traveling there and then he wanted to recreate it on screen. But it was done in such a tasteful way, and it had so much meticulous attention to detail that I feel like was kind of missing here. It just, if you see it, I think you'll know what I'm talking about. So then, that was one of my favorite scenes, even though it was very heavily CGI'd. So anyway, where was I at? So, like I said, Macrinus discovers that Lucia is Lucilla's son. Sorry, I'm yelling because I'm excited. I tend to get louder the more excited I get. So then he orders Lucius to fight Acacius, basically with the intent for Lucius to kill him, because he knew that Lucius wanted to do that, and he kind of like weaponized that hatred or that rage, but Lucius changed his mind. So Lucius and him are fighting. Lucius is about to kill him, and then Acacius is like, I love your mother. He's like, I honored your father. I would die for him if he was here right now. And then he decides to concede and he drops his sword. Like, Acacius like gets on his knees and is like, I'm about to die like a G. I'm about to die like a soldier. Go ahead and do what you got to do. And he doesn't. So freaking Lucius gets on his knees, drops his sword. That pisses the twins off. So they're like, go ahead and kill him. So there's soldiers in the Coliseum that are like in the stands with the audience, and they just kill him with bows and arrows. And it was so brutal because Lucilla is there and she's been found out. She's like handcuffed to the chair watching her husband get slaughtered like an animal. It was so brutal. I was like, Nick said that he felt like the actress was good overall, but he said he didn't feel like she could do scenes that were like more sorrowful or sad well. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right, because she like screamed, but it was like, oh, my husband's dying. And it's like, bitch, I need you to scream. Like, if that was Nick, I'd be like screaming my head off. But she was like, oh, like I don't know, if you see the movie, you know, like she did scream, but it, like the facial like did not match the energy that she was putting out. So it's like, okay, there's some other stuff that I've kind of skipped over because I'm telling you, this movie is so long. There are so many details. Like I pulled up Wikipedia, I took notes, my keynotes, and then I was like, I'm gonna filter in, you know, my thoughts in between that. But it was so long. That's another thing, sidebar. It was really long. It was 2 hours and 41 minutes. Avatar 2, I was gonna say 3. Avatar 2, The Way of Water, was like 3 hours, 3.5. It didn't feel as long. 2, the pacing of this movie is so slow. It's so slow in the beginning, then it picks up, then it's slow, then it picks, and then I think it could have been shorter. That was the other thing. I think it could have been cut by 20 or 30 minutes. It was just so long. I was ready for it to be over. I was trying to figure out what time was it and when could I leave the theater, which is so bad because I was like, I'm so tired. And usually when I go to the theater, I turn my phone on airplane mode so I can really lock in, or I'll turn my phone on silent, or I'll turn it off. It just depends on my mood, but usually it's off in some capacity because I don't want to be bothered. If I'm paying all this money to sit here, I really want to be entertained. I really want to escape. The pacing was just so off. And I don't know. I was like, this is dragging. This is not exciting me. And every time I felt like I blinked, he was fighting. Another thing that I had an issue with was that Lucius was not a flawed character. He wasn't super flawed. He was just perfect right away. Every fight he was in, he won. Even when he got knocked down, he would get up and just somehow have like incredible Hulk fucking super strength. And I was like, that's not realistic. I want to see his rage. I want to see his sadness. And then he would make jokes. And I'm like, if I'm in shackles and I'm enslaved by someone else, I'm not going to be laughing. I'm not going to be making jokes. Like, I'm just not fucking doing it. And I hope I'm never in that fucking situation. But it just, his character, I hate characters that are too perfect and are just like, oh, I win at everything. Everything I touch turns to gold. Like, okay, King Midas. I just did not like that. I wanted a little bit more depth from him. He was so stoic, like he was so husky and everything was so low. I was like, bitch, what? I was like, his face wasn't really, and I'm like, you just found your mom after 20 or 30 years of being away from her. Like, bitch, break down in tears or something. Like, like make your lip quiver. I don't fucking know. Don't listen to me, y'all. I just be so animated. Like, he just wasn't, and I was like, you literally lost your wife, but he really didn't have time to grieve because he went right into enslavement or bondage. So I kind of get it, but I don't like the way that he played him. I wanted more from the performance. The performance was not performancing. I'm sorry. So then, anyway, I'm all over the place. So later, Macrinus kills Gaeta, which is Joseph Quinn's character, with his twins' assistants. He basically pits the twins against each other to get Caracalla to kill Gaeta, which works. Kind of, sort of. He's getting ready to kill him, and then Denzel's like, yeah, let me go ahead and help you. Well, I should say Macrinus. There's so many fucking names. These aren't even all the characters. I haven't even scratched the surface. So anyway, Gaeta appoints Macrinus to be his right-hand man, and like all hell breaks loose because he starts making more power plays. And Macrinus is like, anything regarding the army or the gladiators, come straight to me. And that was so strategic. Well, come to find out, Lucius was a gladiator and branded by Lucilla's dad. So for him, this is so personal because he was enslaved by her father and he feels like the throne is rightfully his, or he should make the empire what he feels it to be. So that is pretty interesting, like the dynamic between them. And then Lucius is forced to defend his mother's honor, or she's going to be killed. So she's brought out, it was a really elaborate thing. Again, it kind of reminded me of the Hunger Games just because of like the class or social status, like the wealthy being very ornate. You know, you remember in like District 12 when they had like the upper crust and they would wear like these crazy costumes and everything was so fancy and ornate, like they had the best of the best, and then the rest of their citizens are like poor as dirt. Like it kind of reminded me of that because she's brought out on this like very ornate, like, I don't even know what to describe it. I don't want to say wagon. I don't know how to, like a cart, but it was decorated so beautifully. She's wearing like a white gown decked out in gold, and it's like such a contrast because I'm like, she's literally getting ready to be killed, but okay. it was like the Salem witch trials. Like they was about to burn her at the stake, but she looked fucking gorgeous. Like she was about to go to like a marriage ceremony. I was like, I'm so confused here. I do want to say I have given some spicy feedback about this. I do want to say that the set design was incredible. Outside of the CGI, like it was very authentic looking, like the buildings, the palaces, you know, just like the interior of places. Also the costumes were amazing. The makeup, the hair was very authentic to the time. I do want to give them credit for that. The score was pretty good, but I wanted a little bit more emotional pull from it. I like scores that kind of like make my heart beat like kind of fast, like, you know, like those sad, like violin-y, like, but I know that is more like operatic with that time period. But anyway, so Lucius is forced to defend his mom, and he has to go up against like a dozen gladiators by himself. Well, he got the keys. He told Ravi to go find this like army that belonged to his stepdad, Akashis, and Ravi gives him the keys. So he breaks himself and all the other gladiators out, and they like strike, and all hell breaks loose. So he's got them like lurking behind the gates, and then they come out and help him. And then the twin Caracalla is like, yay, and Macrinus is like, I'm not with this shit. So then Lucius is fighting for his life, and then Macrinus is like, I'm about to leave because all hell's about to break loose, and he shoots and kills Lucilla with a bow and arrow, similar to how what's her name? Oh my god, Asherat. Is it Asherat? Arishot, excuse me. His wife, Lucius's wife, died in the beginning. It was very symbolic. And then some other stuff happens. The two armies meet up because the army that's there goes to meet the army that Lucius requested Ravi to get. And they meet up, but then they don't fight. Lucius kills Macrinus. He kills him like in the water. The way he died was so weak to me. So him and, okay, let me say, Macrinus runs off on horseback while all the stuff is still going on in the arena after Lucilla just died. And Lucius chases him on horseback, and he's like, hey, like, what we about to do? Like, I'm ready to throw hands. So they sword fight, and then somehow Lucius is thrown in the water, and then he's like struggling to find his sword, and Macrinus is tearing him up because he's still got that gladiatorial spirit in him. So then, what am I trying to say? So then Lucius like chops off his arm, and then he like chops him up like a freaking Wagyu steak. I was like, I'm so confused. I didn't really like that. I thought it was such a weak ending, but I was like, okay. And then Lucius gives a speech and like basically says, hey, let's come together. Let's make Rome a free society. Let's not fight because we've seen so much blood. We've seen so much death, so much gore. And then that was it. And then he goes back to the arena and is like, you know how in the beginning I said he was like letting the seeds fall through his hand. He's like picking up the sand in the Colosseum, basically like grieving his mom, grieving his dad. And I was just like, what the fuck? I was like, if two armies are there, I think realistically a speech is not going to get them to stop. Like, I feel like if you woke me up, my ass up out of the bed, and I'm supposed to be fighting, and I'm not fighting, bitch, I'm going to be like, what? My bloodlust is not cured. Like, you know, I just don't think that's realistic. I didn't like the ending. There was some other stuff. I don't know. Again, like I said, the supporting characters were better than the lead actors. If I had to rate this, I would probably say a 6.5 out of 10. This was not my favorite movie that I've seen. I've seen quite a few this year. I've seen Blink twice. I've seen Twisters. I've seen A Quiet Place Day 1. And my bad, in another video I said it was A Quiet Place 2 is 3. My bad. There's some other stuff I've seen. I can't remember all of them, but those are the 3 that stand out, and those were all better than this one. And Blink Twice really fucked me up, but it was still a better film. Twisters was even a better film, and I wasn't even expecting much. I kind of just saw Twisters like on a freaking whim. I was like, oh, okay. I keep seeing trailers. I hear it's good. I really do like Daisy Edgar Jones. I like Anthony Ramos. I've heard about Glenn Powell. I wasn't super familiar with his work, but I was like, I'll give it a chance, and I actually really ended up loving the movie, and there were some really beautiful sequences in that movie. Also, the score was amazing. The chemistry between the actors was amazing. And I like that even though there was a love story, they didn't make it like overly physical. It was more like they built an emotional connection first more than anything. And then they like kind of supported each other and built more into the love story that way. But yeah, I don't know. I think I did read something that Denzel was mentioning he wanted to retire in a few films, or he felt like he only had a few films left in him. I mean, he's been doing his thing for a really long time, so if he wanted to do that, I totally support it. But he killed his role in this movie. I like Joseph Quinn's character a lot. I loved Ravi. He was such a force for Lucius, but I feel like Lucius really didn't grow. He just wanted to kill everybody, and I kind of wished he had fallen. I kind of wished him losing his wife kind of weakened him in a way. I feel like it just made him stronger because he was just leading with rage, and he was just killing everything in his path like a freaking hurricane or tornado. But I kind of wish he had lost his will a little bit, and he had, like, he did lose a lot. He lost his wife, he lost his captain that he was really close with, he lost his both of his parents if we think about it, and he lost like his livelihood. But I don't know. I'm like, how did he come to play him? What was his inspiration? Was he, Nick did mention that it probably must be really big shoes to fill because the first one was so iconic and is so loved. And that is true. Russell Crowe is a veteran in this industry. And to come make this movie, what, almost 20 years, later, or 20 plus years later, like that is a huge deal. And he's a relatively new actor to my knowledge, unless he's been in the business for a while. And I just don't know. But I don't freaking know. I hope that my review helps. Don't let my words make you not want to go see it. If you genuinely want to go see it and support the movie, please do that. Don't feel like my little rant here is not worth it, because you might take something different from it than what I did. But me personally, I really love movies. I do take them so seriously, which is so bad. But like, one of my dreams is to have my books turn into movies or TV shows. I love films. I enjoy going to the movies. It's one of my favorite things to do. Probably won't be going as much until, things pick up financially, but there's streaming and stuff like that at home, and, apps and whatnot. But yeah, I'm glad I went. I'm glad I got out the house. It was cold as shit though. And it was rainy. Sidebar, we also went to Smash Burger. I don't know if you guys have ever gone there before the movie. And it was just so mid. Like, I've tried to give them a chance, and the one by our house was just not giving. So I was like, I don't think I'm gonna go there again. First of all, it took them a long ass time to get our food. I felt so bad because there was only one person working the register, and then there was one guy doing like all the mobile orders, and I think he was working the orders inside. He was just on his feet, and I felt so freaking bad for him. So shout out to you guys. It's nothing that they really did. I think it was just lacking a little bit. And then the guy at the counter, I was like, I want a single. It was like a bacon stack burger or something like that. And I was like, I want a single. This man gave me a double. Then he, like, in the middle of Nick giving him his order, he's like, and how many drinks did you want? I'm like, bro, we already told you. And then he kept asking us, like, oh, do you guys want to eat here or take it to go? And I'm like, bitch, I know I said here. Like, like, I'm not trying to judge him too hard, because I was like, he might have been stressed. It might have been a long night. And it seemed like they were getting a lot of to-go orders. So I was like, damn, that must suck. I was like, I bet you restaurants hate mobile orders now, because it's so easy to do it. Just click of a button, and they got to prepare all this food in-house and then all this influx. So I was like, that is a lot. And so it was weird. Nick got sweet potato fries and a chicken sandwich. Why they bring his sweet potato fries out like way before his sandwich? He had like the fries, and he likes to eat his stuff together, so he just sat there with the fries. And I was like, babe, your fries are getting cold. We asked this man at the register, we were like, hey, can we get what did we ask him for? We were like, hey, can we get some truffle mayo? I think it was like truffle aioli or something like that, because we love garlic aioli. That's one of my favorite sauces, and I know how to make that joint, and it's chef's kiss. But that's one of our favorite sauces. So we're like, hey, can we get 2 of those? He doesn't bring it. Like, my fries were so fucking dry, so I just ended up putting ketchup on them, because I got like the smash fries with, I think it's got like herbs like parsley or garlic or something on them. They were so fucking dry. Then he never brought the sauce. My burger, it was weird. It was like juicy but dry at the same time. Like, the patties were juicy, but then it was like it was like missing something. And then all these people were coming in, and they were just sitting there waiting, because the guy at the front had to make some milkshakes, I think, for it to go order. And I felt so bad for them, but I also felt bad for him, because I was like, he doesn't have any support. Like, it's just up him, and he's doing his best. I just felt bad. And then what was I gonna say? Also, my bacon was like really fatty, so I was just like, bro, I don't want this. So like the one piece, I had to like just get rid of it. I was like, I probably could have gave this to the dog, but I didn't have anything to put it in. And then I was gonna go get my drink from like the fountain thingy, and the fountain machine. I don't know why I said fountain thingy. And I got this like lemonade with like cane sugar and turmeric. It was actually really good. Why I try to go put the top on, the top kept popping off. So I swore I was gonna like spill it on myself. Then, bro, I sit down, there's a piece of chicken in the chair next to me. I was like, this is so fucking nasty. I was like, maybe they haven't had time to clean it. It was about like 5:30, almost 6 when we, like 5:45 or 6 when we like got over there and like got situated. So it was like right at dinner time. But I was like, this is some BS. We go to the theater, it's fucking packed. I was like, oh my God. I think there was more people in the Wicked screening than there was in ours. Like ours was probably like 50-55% packed, maybe like 60. Like it was more like the top row, the top section, like the middle to the top was full, and then the bottom was just completely empty. And we kept seeing people, but they weren't going in that theater. So I was like, oh bro, they're going to Wicked. I don't like musicals, so I won't be seeing that, and it actually looks bad. I'm sorry, but it seems like it's getting a lot of love. I think because they have a huge star in it already, that's probably helping Ariana Grande. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this critique. I know it's long. I said I wasn't going to talk that much, but I'm in here running my mouth. I plan to do another film critique for you guys of this movie I watched called Lola. Oh my God, it broke my fucking heart. I was like, bitch, what the fuck did I just watch? And then had the nerve to take a nap afterwards. But anyway, that was my review of Gladiator. Again, don't let this deter you from seeing the movie. If you want to see it, please go see it. Anyway, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Love you guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye.